What's up everybody, Storm Ginger here with another video tutorial on the Isle. Today we'll be covering Allosaurus fragilis. Alright, let's get started. So we're going to start off with his roars. Here's his F roar. Now you see this roar is very reminiscent of Jurassic Fight Club. A documentary that was on the History Channel. Here is the broadcast roar. It's just like the F roar, except drawn out and louder. Here's the friendly roar. Nice. Here's the aggressive roar. See, the mouth opens really wide for that one. And then here's his help me roar. Okay, so here's his walk speed. Pretty decent walk speed. Now here's his trot speed. Now here's his sprint speed. Alrighty, so Allosaurus was discovered in 1877 by Othniel Charles Marsh. Its name, Allosaurus, means other lizard, and it was one of the first large carnivores ever discovered in North America, and it showed the scientific community that carnivorous dinosaurs actually did grow to quite large sizes. This dinosaur was found at the beginning of the Bone Wars, which was a time generally around the early 20th century, where scientists were trying as hard as they could to find as many dinosaurs as they could find and name as many dinosaurs as they possibly could. A lot of these dinosaurs were actually Allosaurus. For example, Antrodemus, Creosaurus, and Labrasaurus are actually just all Allosaurus fragilis material. Today we currently have a dispute on the validity of the genus Saurophagonix maximus. Some scientists believe that it is its own genus, whereas some scientists do believe that it is just Allosaurus, which is interesting because Saurophagonix is one of the Big Ten, one of the dinosaurs that are meat-eating dinosaurs that's larger than Tyrannosaurus Rex. But if this is true, it'll be referred to as Allosaurus maximus. Now, Allosaurus is a very well documented and highly studied dinosaur. It has a lot of specimens, especially out of the Morrison Formation in Utah, but its remains have also been found in Portugal and possibly Tanzania in Africa. It lived between 155 and 150 million years ago in the late Jurassic period. It had competition from other carnivores such as Ceratosaurus and Torvosaurus and possibly Saurophagonix. Allosaurus lived in a different kind of niche than Ceratosaurus and Torvosaurus. Allosaurus had longer legs and was faster, and generally was much more suited for the open plains and floodplains, whereas Ceratosaurus was more built around living in the underbrush or in forested areas where it can maneuver more easily. We do have evidence that we do have evidence of a leg bone that was chewed on by possibly a Torvosaurus, and that could possibly show that Torvosaurus and Allosaurus had some direct competition with each other. Now, what makes Allosaurus unique is it doesn't have a very strong bite force. Its bite force is weaker than that of a lion's. Yet its skull, particularly in the top jaw, is well suited for absorbing countless amounts of stress, like ridiculous amounts of stress. It's been speculated by Robert T. Backer that this dinosaur would actually attack like a saber-toothed cat, opening its mouth super wide and coming down on top of the animal like a hatchet with its top jaw with its neck muscles. And we do have evidence to show that the neck muscles are capable of doing this, and it would basically dig its top jaw into the organism and pull and bleed the organism as much as possible before they succumb to blood loss. Now, this actually also was a useful adaptation for feeding as well, where it would put its foot onto the organism and hold it down, and then it would bite a piece of flesh and use its neck muscles to just jerk its head up and just shred a bunch of meat out. Now, in terms of herbivores living in the floodplains, Allosaurus would generally go after Stegosaurus and Camarasaurus and Diplodocus, generally big animals, and Camptosaurus. It didn't really go after the small animals like Dryosaurus and Othnielia. That was more for Ceratosaurus's niche. We do have evidence of sauropod bones being gnawed on by Allosaurus, and we also have evidence of a vertebral column which healed, so the animal survived the encounter, but it's a puncture hole from a Stegosaurus spike. So it's obvious that these two organisms were fighting each other at some point. Now, it has been speculated that these dinosaurs have possible social behavior, hunting in packs. Some scientists have speculated that these were animals that were generally solitary by nature, but when it came to hunting things like Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Camarasaurus, they would generally get together in a pack and just hunt for that specific time, and then disband once the hunt was over and the animal was killed and they had their fill. Now, in popular culture, Allosaurus is largely recognized as one of the quintessential large carnivorous dinosaurs alongside Tyrannosaurus rex. And now there's been a myth that's floating around that Allosaurus or Tyrannosaurus rex is descended from Allosaurus, which is generally not true. Allosaurus is a basal tetanoran or carnosaur, and it comes from its own family called Allosauridae, and its descendants will include Carcharodontosauridae and Neovenatorids and Megaraptorids. Tyrannosaurus rex comes from Coelurosauria, so it's more related to Velociraptor than it is to Allosaurus. Now, in popular culture, Allosaurus has been featured in countless movies and documentaries. Its first appearance was in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World in both the book and the film adaptation. The main character actually called it a scourge of the ancient world. Its second appearance was in Valley of Gwanji in 1969, I think, where it fought cowboys. And Ray Harryhausen did state that he said that the dinosaur he wanted to depict was Allosaurus, but he based the model more off of Charles R. Knight's version of Tyrannosaurus rex. So it looks like a T-Rex, but it's supposed to be an Allosaurus. And then he shows up in Walking with Dinosaurs, and then Allosaurus eventually gets its own special called The Ballad of Big Al, where they actually show the famous skeleton that was 95% complete of an Allosaurus fragilis. through its life, showing all the different pathologies all over the skeleton. And then it was also featured in When Dinosaurs Roamed America, though it wasn't really the main sort of character, I guess, in that. It was more focused on Ceratosaurus as opposed to Allosaurus, which I guess was a smart move, because Allosaurus did make a large part of Walking with Dinosaurs, which was the documentary that came out first. It was also featured in Dinosaur Revolution, where they followed a skeleton uncovered by Dr. Thomas Holtz Jr. of an Allosaurus that had its bottom jaw smashed by possibly a sauropod dinosaur. It was also featured in Jurassic Fight Club. It got 2 episodes. One called The Bloodiest Battle, which was focused around a watering hole where the lake was really muddy, and these Allosauruses come along and try to take down a Camarasaurus that was stuck in the mud. And then we also got the second episode was called The Hunter Became the Hunted, where it featured 2 Ceratosauruses that were being hunted by a Allosaurus. And finally, its final appearance was in Dinosaur Planet, a BBC television series dinosaur documentary, where they talk about the latest advancements in paleontology about these kinds of dinosaurs. And it mentions Allosaurus, its biting mechanic, and it also talks about Saurophagonix. Now, in terms of video games, this dinosaur was featured in Dino Crisis as a boss, I believe. It was also in Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. If you pick the dig site in Tanzania, you will get Allosaurus. And it's also supposed to be upcoming in Ark Survival Evolved, where it has a pack hunting mechanic where if you tame an Allosaurus and you tame another Allosaurus, they'll get a sort of boost, I guess, from being a pack if you tame the pack leader. Now, and then you have the game that I'm playing right now, the Isle. It's in the Isle now. In terms of the Isle, it is the 3rd largest carnivore in the game, tying with Carnotaurus. It is part of the Acrocanthosaurus strain, starting with Marchosaurus and then going into Allosaurus and then ending with Acrocanthosaurus. Now, the dev team did say that for this strain there was going to be premium skins for DLC that was coming out after the game's release, where you could choose to get, instead of Acrocanthosaurus, you could play as Carcharodontosaurus or Giganotosaurus. All 3 of those dinosaurs are all basal tetanurans from Carcharodontosauridae, Acrocanthosaurus being the smallest of the 3, and Giganotosaurus being the largest. Now, in terms of dinosaur matchups in carnivores, now Herrerasaurus, we're going to start off with Herrerasaurus. Now, Allosaurus can run down and just take out Herrerasaurus. If it's by itself, you'll have no problem. You'll get 1 bite off and it'll succumb to bleed damage rather quickly. It's not really worth the meat for the resources you have to expend for it. It doesn't really give you a lot, but it's a pretty easy kill. Now, in terms of getting swarmed by Herrerasaurus, that's when things start getting a little tricky. They can come at you from all sides and try to succumb you to bleed damage. His turn radius isn't really that good, so it's going to be hard to deal with all of them. And then you got Suchomimus. Now, Suchomimus is larger than Allosaurus. It's also faster than Allosaurus, and it also can tank more damage than Allosaurus. This is a dinosaur you generally want to avoid, seeing as it'd be very hard to take down, and you can't really get away from it. So my advice to players is, as soon as you see a Suchomimus, keep your distance. Don't try to antagonize it, and give yourself enough distance so if it does try to go after you, you can get away rather easily. And then you got Austroraptor. Now, Austroraptor is faster than Allosaurus in terms of just pure sprinting speed. You can finish it off with one bite, just like Herrerasaurus. Now, I don't know if Austroraptor can pounce you, because the dev team didn't really put the pounce ability on all the new dinosaurs that were coming in for Austroraptor. But that's the only way the Austroraptor can get its bleed damage. Other than that, if it bites you, it's not going to do a lot of damage, and there's no bleed damage. So if you get swarmed by a bunch of them, if they can't pounce on you, you'd be perfectly fine. All you have to do is just bleed all of them, and eventually, they'll all succumb to bleed damage. And you got Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one's another one that I would say you should avoid. Tyrannosaurus Rex can turn tighter than Allosaurus, so it's going to be difficult to run in, get a bite, and run away and try to bleed him out. The only thing I can say is Allosaurus is faster than Tyrannosaurus Rex, so if one is chasing after you, you can get away rather quickly. Now, a group of Allosauruses, a group of Allosauruses could take out a Tyrannosaurus Rex pretty easily. I'd say the same for Suchomimus. I actually got swarmed by a bunch of Allosauruses as a Suchomimus once, so there was that. And so, next we move into hunting strategies. Now, you can either A, set up an ambush. Allosaurus has pretty good skins for hiding. I mean, he's got a green skin, a brown skin, so you can hide in the underbrush rather easily. He's not that tall compared to Tyrannosaurus Rex and Suchomimus, so he'd hide more easily. And get in as close as you can. And the moment they start to notice you, you sprint at them. And you try to catch them. Or you could try hunting in a pack. Now, there are plenty of people who play Allosaurus. Allosaurus is a very popular and common dinosaur to see in the aisle. So finding pack mates isn't going to be very difficult. And then my strategy is you get one Allosaurus to distract another dinosaur to get them to either expose a weak spot or get them to do an animation, so that way the other dinosaur can use the frames to get that dinosaur. And I would recommend that strategy for dinosaurs like Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Ankylosaurus. In terms of for Dryosaurus and Pachycephalosaurus, those are pretty easy to take out. You can run them down, kill them. You do have to watch out though. Pachycephalosaurus will do some damage to you. It doesn't do bleed or crushing damage, but it does quite a bit. Not really a lot in terms of other herbivore dinosaurs, but it's a pretty decent amount of damage. You generally want to come in, get your bite, bleed them. Come in for another bite if you have to for Pachycephalosaurus. Not so much Dryosaurus. It has a very low amount of health. Then you have Myosaurus and Shantungosaurus. Now, Myosaurus is easier than Shantungosaurus only because it doesn't do as much damage as Shantungosaurus. You generally just want to get behind them because all the hitboxes are in the front, and get as much bites off as possible so that they'll succumb to bleed damage. Now, Stegosaurus is a dinosaur you generally want to avoid. Stegosaurus is a very hard dinosaur to do, but in a pack you could get another Allosaurus to encourage the Stegosaurus to use the animation on one side, and then the other Allosaurus comes in and bites the Stegosaurus. That's the best possible way I could figure for that dinosaur. It's the same with Ankylosaurus. And that strategy would also work for Triceratops and Diabloceratops. Not so much Diabloceratops. Diabloceratops is pretty easy to handle as Allosaurus since it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does do bleed damage, so you do have to watch out for that one. But Triceratops will do a tremendous amount of damage, and you're generally not going to survive if you get hit by a Triceratops. So you're going to want to get another dinosaur to distract the Triceratops to keep its sort of head glued to the other one, so that way you can come in, get your bite off, start the bleeding process. Now, for Therizinosaurus, it does have good turn speed, So like Triceratops, you're going to have to watch out for that. But you are faster than Therizinosaurus, so you can run down a Therizinosaurus if it starts running. But its attacks will do a tremendous amount of damage. But it only has 800 health, so that's one thing to keep in mind. So it will be easier to tackle than, say, a Triceratops. But it may require either you need to outsmart the Therizinosaurus or you're going to have to do the pack mentality. But you have to remember that the Therizinosaurus is not going to give you as much meat for 2 dinosaurs as a Triceratops would. Now, Gallimimus for Allosaurus, generally not worth going after. It's too fast, and it's not worth the meat for the amount of resources you have to spend to get it. It's generally, I leave Gallimimus alone unless I'm an Ostroraptor or a Carnotaurus, a dinosaur that's, you know, built to take down a fast dinosaur like that. And then you have Puertosaurus. Now Puertosaurus, I'll generally go after them as Allosaurus because it's pretty easy to take one down. Allosaurus is fast and small enough that you can run in, bite its front legs, and run out before the front hitboxes can even touch you. Puertosaurus doesn't do any bleed damage or anything like that, but its front hitbox and back hitboxes will one-shot you, so that doesn't really matter. But other than that, you get a couple of Allosauruses together, and you can take down a Puertosaurus no problem. So that's it for this video. Tune in next time. I'll be covering Ostroraptor. See you out in the aisle and have fun surviving.